All right, next person on stage, Michael, for just versus, what was it?
I don't know. Let's have a look. You open up an app, and the first thing you type is make. Absolutely, and it will tell you immediately, right? And this is really useful because then it will tell you what you can do. I can make present. Cool. Make present autocomplete with a tab. Cool. Oh, okay. This is what we're talking about. Make versus Justfile versus Mise versus XC. Up your developer experience on your local machine. I'm Michael Milewski. Find me in all the things. Let's get stuck into this. Makefile backgrounder. Who knows anything about Makefile? Everyone, right? You're all experts, but you're like, what has that got to do with Ruby, right? So let's have a look. In here, if I cd to 01 ls, we have what would be typically a 1970s C project. You have your cat message.c, and it says, hey, I know this text, this message of hello world, cat hello world.c, and it says print that message. And obviously I've got two files, so it becomes non-trivial. I need to compile this. I need to create a compilation, link it together. So they came up with something called make. And make is based on a makefile, which you can see there. If we have a look at the makefile, this is what it looks like. This is one that some kind of AI generated for me. It's kind of like a lot of bashy stuff, right? There's a bunch of things with capital letters up there. Well, I suppose they're constants, right? Or they're things that are by convention reused in other places, but reused once. Equals, okay, so we're setting those things. And then there is what is known as targets in make language. Targets are a name followed by a semicolon. And in this case, this is dependent on anything that's after that, which happens to be this indirection of various obscure things. In the middle of this, you build some .o objects, you build your target. We know the target is a hello world program that we want to build. Our objects are made up of these two, and clean removes everything. So you're starting clean, okay? So let's see that run. Make, and immediately it runs, and immediately it compiles things, right? So it's compiled the hello world C to hello world O, message.c, message.o, and then it's created a hello world program. So it's gone through a couple of build steps. Now, if I run hello world, I expect to get the message. So at least we know it worked. Hello world, amazing. If I remove message.o, which is one of the intermediary steps, and then if I run make again, theoretically what should happen is it should not have to do this one, because it's like, that's already done. This one hasn't been done. It should do that one and then that one. So rather than doing 3 steps, it should be clever enough to say, hey, this thing's already done. And there you go. Oh, yeah, cool. Clever enough. This is already done. So that's what make was made for back in the 1960s, 70s. Because it was made back then, it's pretty cool. It's almost on every machine. So it's kind of one of its key things is that it's almost on every machine. Okay, almost available. Making a bit of a comeback. There is some Three Musketeers pattern regarding make, Docker, and something else. Hopefully we get to the point of what I call DIAC, for no good reason. IAC, infrastructure as code, is what the DevOps revolution was. What I'm suggesting is we should focus on a developer infrastructure as code, developer infrastructure as code kind of perspective. So hopefully I'll share that with you at the end. Oh yeah, I've got make inside my presentation. Control E means I can run it. And there you go. That's the output we saw beforehand. So I may use that amazing feature of this amazing text presentation software again. Let's get into it. So we saw a make file in the C context. We kind of got half confused, but yep, it builds things, right? Makefile, we saw that basic thing, but let's dive into a few other little quirks on there. So if I go into Makefile here, we look down here and go, oh, okay, there's like 4 characters there, right? No, because how do you search? Oh yeah, tab. That's actually a tab character, right? So Makefile doesn't like tab characters, it requires tab characters. You don't have a tab character in there, it fails. If your editor doesn't realize it's a Makefile, you're going to get screwed, okay? It has to be tabs because that's just one of the quirks of a Makefile. We talked about tasks. We'll see a bit of them in a second. We talked about this lazy evaluation, right? So I said if I deleted the file, it didn't get evaluated. Hopefully we'll have a look at that in a second. Yeah, let me just jump to the next. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I've kind of rushed through some of these slides. So in general, make targets, as I just demonstrated, would by default just run whatever was required to run. But you could have, as I mentioned, things like make clean to clean out anything that was done, so you could start anew. You may have things like build all, link, install, uninstall, rebuild, publish, distribute, etc. These are all various things at various places where you may want to use make targets. And again, you're thinking, well, okay, Michael, you've shown us all of these things. Why do you care? Well, we do use make, probably again, Control E. So if I look at my current gems for my current version of Ruby, 4 of those gems have a make file, right? Why do they have a make file? Because presumably it's C code, so it needs to compile it. So it's used that way. So sorry, back to the slides. This is the standard way of installing Unix packages. So anyone who has been around probably before 2010 would have downloaded a tar.gz, change directory into it, ran a configuration, ran a make install. But the beauty of that meant, because they all ran the same, that we could then build tools like Bundler on top of them. We could build other tools on top of these things because we just knew that all of these other tools were built the same consistent way. And part of where we're going to try and head to is what could be the benefit of using a makefile in our local projects to, again, give us consistency. So let's run through a couple of examples. Run a command, okay? So if I jump out of this project and cd across to O2, I run make, and in here, we see, again, something I showed right at the beginning, this handy little script of things I can do. So getting started, maybe run make to have this usage guide. In development, you may want to do things like make setup, test, lint fix, build, dev to run the app. So let's have a quick run of make setup. And actually it runs bin setup, right? So bin setup happens to be the default Rails way of setting up a Rails app. So even without me knowing anything about the directory I'm in, I'm presumably in a Rails app, and presumably I have just installed any missing gems, set up the database, all by running a simple command that was there that I didn't even have to read the README. I just had to run that. And obviously for the takeaway, is it Rails? It's Rails. 8. True. But then I said, well, there's other things there, right? How do I run tests, right? How do you run tests? Well, is it bundle exec spec, or do I have bin spec, or do I have to do something special? Make test. And yes, can I get rid of this thing? What is that? And that's a. So this is running a whole bunch of tests, right? So make test was that. Make lint will run. Okay, bin Rubocop. Again, using Rails 8 comes built in. Somebody wanted to know, is it using standard? I don't know. What is it called? Rubocop. It is using its own Rubocop Rails. Who knows? Who knows what it's using? Terrible. Bad decision. But coming back to this, again, if I want to go, hey, what's a build, right? What do I have to build in CI? I don't have to think about it. Presumably it's just make build. And all of a sudden it will do one thing that Make is good at, which is running a bunch of tasks one after the other. It ran tests, it ran Rubocop. It's now annotating routes. It's now annotating models and everything else. And then at the end, echo $? It's 0, which means success, which means your build has passed. And this allows me to run the same thing in CI, the same thing on my machine, the same thing on your machine. And we never had to install anything because we used Make to set up everything from the beginning. If we have a quick look at that Make file, so this is typical what I would use for a Rails or a non-C project. I would set the default goal to be usage because I need to know how to use this, right? If we go down the bottom, usage is tab indented, big ass piece of text with a whole bunch of echoes. And I said there's a few quirkiness. Tab indented is 1. If I don't want the whole thing to be written out to the screen to say this is what I'm going to run, I have to prepend the commands with an @ right? Because Make, don't argue. If I want to put a $ anywhere, I need to put a double $ because a single $ will say the next thing is a variable name, something like that, right? So there's a bunch of quirky things that are really a little bit weird, but what I've noticed in the last 4 companies I've worked at where I've kind of rolled some of these things out is people actually start to embrace them and go, okay, cool, that is what it is, but it's pretty handy. And in this case, this was spitting out, I do Control Z, Make this. So you had some colors in there, amazing, ANSI colors. We had the name of my name, the name of the directory I'm in, O2 run a command. Most of the time, if that's in a GitHub, if that's in a Git repo, that's the name of the repo. So it's kind of handy to go, oh yeah, I'm in project A versus project B. I've got these things, I know how to run them. So those are, there's a double $, right? Where I need a $ with brackets to get the who am I to find out the user that I'm running is as shell scripting. Not Ruby, but the good thing is I don't have to install anything. This will run on almost any system immediately because it will just go, cool, I know Bash or I know Z shell or whatever shell you're running. I know I can pick those things out. I know these colors will work. The phony, right? I mentioned this idea that by default, it's going to try and be lazy evaluating. So if I, whoops, Shift G, if I got rid of the phony on usage, Control Z, did Make, everything's still good, right? But if I touched a file that said usage, so I now have a new file called usage, and if I do Make, it says usage is up to date because it says it's already been created, like that output file has been created. And often people go, like, what are these stupid phonies you got all over the place? And I'm like, well, Make. I don't know. That's just the way it is. Undo, right? Sorry? Touch phony. Well, phony is a special command with a dot at the beginning. Dot phony. But yes, that'd be very phony. Ha ha. Cool. So that's basically, and then I said, well, we had a bunch of examples here that ran commands. Test runs bin rspec. Now, if you have extra commands there, extra parameters that you need to pass in, some environment that you want to do, great, you can add that. We then also said that something, things like annotate. Like I'm not going to remember how to run bundle exec, annotate RB routes, models, and Chusaku, whatever it is. I just want that in one place. And I don't want that in the README because in the README, I can't execute it. It won't be the same thing I run in CI. I can't just run it. I need to cut and paste it out. This allows me to make it runnable. And obviously the other thing beyond tasks is you can have dependencies. So the build will make sure you run test, then make sure you run lint, then make sure you run annotate. And it'll run every time, same thing. I just have to remember make build. And if I've got that across my 15 projects on GitHub, or I've got that across my 8 repos that I work on, it's easy, right? Rather than like, what do I do in this JavaScript thing? Oh, you have to run Cypress and then just this. And you're like, what? I just want to run one command. And that one command could work across everything. All right, so we got how to run a command. Next, file create. CD 03 make. Cool. I can do some things. Sidekick. Amazing. All right. So presumably I make make setup. Okay. Setup now is looking at my ASDF. It's checking that I've got the versions of stuff installed. I'm running this on a different computer than I actually created this. That's why it's now installing a whole bunch of gems that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't run this earlier. So it's doing that, and then it's run something right down the bottom, and it's like, whatever. Actually, I shouldn't have run that because that was the bit I was meant to show. So presumably there's a make clean. Oh, amazing. Cool. All right, so in here, I don't know how to piss that. Why is this thing? I don't know how terminals work anymore. Make, and this was a Sidekick web, right? So I go, okay, I want a Sidekick web, right? I don't want to do all this install stuff. Just run the web. And it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on. It's done some kind of rack up, but I can see in the instruction, I can do view Sidekick web. I go, cool, let's bring that up. So we'll create a new tab, make view Sidekick web, and holy shit, runtime error. Okay, and then I start reading it, and it says, hey, first use IRB to create a shared secret key for the session and commit it. Okay, so you need a secret key. And then now use the secret with a session cookie middleware. All right, so I need a session.key file. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing to know how to create that? Make dot session. Can I do make session? I'll just do what was it, install or something like that. Make setup, maybe. Make setup. Oh, okay. And that's where that command is, right? So if this is a thing that needs to happen at certain times, I don't have to put it in a README. I have to put commands. I just say it makes setup. First time it runs. The second time it will find that it's already there and it will just ignore it, because that's one good thing Make is good at, creating files if they don't exist. By make file. And the difference, no phony, right? So basically, if you don't have the phony, it will just run that and it will create that file. It will download a file, a data file, whatever you want. You could use wget, anything you want. In this case, I'm using Ruby on the thing. So we have the file. I refresh that. We'll still have the error because am I even running the server? I am running the server. But then vibe bin sidekick, I need to probably need to restart it. And if this doesn't work, well, tough luck. Right? Woo! Okay, cool. So basically, make allows me to, on the fly, remember a bunch of commands, create files if I need them. In this case, get up a Sidekick project running, no dead jobs, 55,000 processed. I'm sharing a Redis cache that's probably got some other stuff. Zoom chat question. How do I even see that? In the chat. Hello, Zoom. For Q&A, sorry if I missed it, but does make offer something a shell script doesn't for running the setup commands like Rubocop and annotate? No. So make basically does two things: allows you to have tasks and allows you to have dependencies on those tasks and just runs them. And once your scripts get too complicated, you'll probably just run a shell script. So no, it is literally a way of organizing and giving you that initial thing to say, run something to tell me what to run. Because otherwise you could go, oh yeah, I've got scripts. And you're like, well, which ones? Oh, in bin/script/ do this thing first. But then you have to read the README. And then if you go into, so the place I work at the moment, we have a front-end app in web in using Ionic, another one in Angular, another one in React, a Rails app, and 4 Rails backends that I may or may not have to use. And if in all of those I jump in and I have to read the README and work out how to run it, how to do anything, that's really painful. Whereas if I can do make dev to just run it, or make test to test it, or make lint to lint it, very, very handy. Yes, question.
Can we do like Docker composing?
Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, you can, if you've got a Docker compose command that you need to run, put it in your make file. If it's a short command, like 3 lines, put it in there. It will be there forever. You know how to run it. If it's anything more complicated, probably throw it into a script, but still use make to run it.
What I was going to say, the question from Adam, it's not just writing a script, because what make does, the lazy evaluation part, if something has been done already, it doesn't need to be done as part of a whole dependency chain, it will not do that. Whereas in script, if you're writing a shell script, you have to then do this compilation yourself. You have to check for what to do and what not to do. Whereas if you define targets in make, you say, oh, hang on, this target has been satisfied previously. Let's not do that again.
All right. 4, if not exists. All right, let's go. Make. Oh, we just got to make. Okay. Okay, so you can set up co-authors. Make, set up co-authors. Let's see what that does. Okay, it runs a big ass command. But often, to your point, it may be a little bit more complicated than that. What you may want to do, your name there? Are these your friends? It's the Holberton group. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. People I've paired with recently on this machine. What you may need to do is sometimes to get that item potency, to get that thing, you will need to work out the command to say, how do I do this if it's not there? In this case, the @command -v git mob pipe to dev null says, is the command git mob available? And it said no. And it said, if not, then install it. So that's what it did. Hence, we got all that NPM warning stuff and everything else. And it said git mob installed finally after reshimming some other stuff as well. If I run that again, in this case, we missed this bit because that was already installed. So it was slightly faster, but that logic was added by me, right? So it's not always, it's not going to be smart with things like, hey, is this thing installed? Let's have a look at them. All right, have a look at the make file. So in this case, to check, as I said, this command -v says, is the command there? It's not there. Go and install it. And this is where it gets a little bit hairy, right? Because it says in brackets, command git mob, check if it exists, spit anything out into dev null. So don't write it to the output. And so if it does exist, also do git mob version, because that will actually check that it really exists. Otherwise, npm install global git mob and ASDF reshim, because for some reason it needed it last time I did it. So as you can see, you can do these things, but it becomes a little bit hairy. This is bash.
Mostly bypassed it by adding a target that exists as a file system. So if it sees the target it ran and there's a file with the same name as the target, it won't run.
Correct, but then I would need to be referencing a file on the whole file system that I don't even know where gitmob does its thing, because gitmob is a npm extension that you use by running git space mob, not git -mob. It's not a program that's actually available the same. I think it's just something that overlays itself into Git. So there's a few little gotchas here, but that's why we're going through this.
What's the point of having that first part to check if it exists? Got a second? Is it slightly faster?
If I do git mob version and git mob doesn't exist, it'll blow up.
Yeah, but like, what's the point of having the man v git mob? You've got the second one that actually runs it.
Well, the first one says, can I even run this? And the second one runs version. Why I ran version, off the top of my head can't remember. I have to look at the.
So if the first fails, the second is run. Or even the first fails, the second does run.
Oh, right. And if the second.
So let me rephrase that the second one is more reliable. So why even bother with the first
one? No, the first one's more reliable. If I run git mob -- version and it doesn't exist, it will immediately die. Runtime error. Whereas if I run command -v git mob, it will say, did it exist? Nah. Okay, well, don't do anything more. Install it. And it said, if it does exist, just check the version. Why it's checking the version, I don't know right now. Bash scripting. We'll move on. We'll move on from that. By the end of this, you'll be writing Rust. Be fine. It'll be fine.
ASDF.
Sorry?
I've seen it pushing Mise, but your command explicitly said ASDF.
ASDF, because currently I was using ASDF. We'll get into Mise. Yeah, I know. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
there's a lot of things going on in my machine right now. Okay, file created if not exist, fail. All right, CD 05 fail, make say it. Okay, make say it, and then boom, it blew up. Okay, so if you want to take input parameters or if you want to fail your command, you can. In this case, it said, hey, I actually need an input parameter called message, and I can go make new Ruby Dojo message hello world. And I'm like, holy shit, that's hard. Can I just, why does it say setup demo? I think I can just do make demo.
Hello world.
All right, whoa, yeah. So let's have a look at the make file. What we did in the demo is use the correct parameters, right? And what we did in the say it was said, hey, I've got a script, a shell script, right? Somewhere else. And now I want to use this amazingly intuitive way of passing a parameter or throwing a message. So in an extra shell, I say either there's a message, otherwise error must specify message. This is what I want. Make new Ruby Dojo message hello world. New Ruby Dojo, that's even wrong. Clearly I copied that from somewhere else, right? So this is, you can do this, but this is where it gets, hairy. So passing parameters to this stuff doesn't always work. Cool. CD 06, include. Okay, make. All right, this one doesn't do anything. So I can do make demo. I think, make, show make. Right, so show make will show me the 3 make files. I have a make file at the top that says, hey, I have a demo, hello world from the main make file. I also include from a subdirectory A make file. Subdirectory A has a make file which says, here, subdirectory B says make file in subdirectory B and demo A. What you can do, find dot, is have a make file and have other make files in other subdirectories and include them. So if you have a generic make file that you want to use across lots and lots of places, you could actually pull that in and reference it from your one for your. So if you know that everywhere you want to do bin rspec, Rubocop, Rails, Docker Compose, whatever, you could put that in a generic make file and then include that generic make file in your make file per project to share that kind of stuff. So if I do make again, I can go make demo, that will use the default make file. But if I go make demo A, that will use the make file inside of subdirectory A. So you can do that using an include statement. CD 07, switch to just. All right, I think we may have includes make files. All right, yeah, here. Okay, so finishing on make file, there's a complicated adventure in experimental methods in Sidekick that does amazing things in make files, like fires up tmux and multiple sessions and multiple services all in one thing. I will share the slides so you can see it all at the end. I won't go into it just time-wise, let's keep moving. But as I said, make is almost everywhere. I was going to go into Alpine and show that it's in there. It's actually not in Alpine, which surprised me. Sed, awk, grep, vi are, but make is not. But it's very easy to install. You just do apk add no cache make, and then make works. And you can also do that for just. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So what is just? So makefile, good way to document scripts per repository. Just is a handy way to save and run project-specific commands. They're the links Now, first problem with just, bloody hard to search for, right? Because anytime you search for just, it finds a whole bunch of things. Hence, I've given you the just.systems and github.com Casey just. That's the spots where you find stuff about just. Question?
I don't know, like we should ask, like, what if I just want to use the rake to bootstrap my apps? And I can use the shell script on top of it to install the bundle, having the rake task to do everything from app setup.
Yep. Anyone want to tell me why that's a problem?
Rakes are available in the machine.
First of all, it doesn't come on every machine. Second of all, it never works when you change a version of Ruby. Because the first thing you do is run rake and it says, version of Ruby's wrong. And then at that point you're going, oh, well, what am I doing, right? So make does away with that. Make, you can give me a brand new laptop. The first thing, and in fact, I've got my dot file set up this way that I download a GitHub repo and I run make. Make checks that Brew's there, installs Brew, and everything just runs. So every time I've seen these things, the other thing, rake takes a little bit longer to fire up. But yeah, I mean, it is another option, right? NPM is another, package.json is another option.
Have the shell script on top, would be for
Correct, but then you've got two things, right? Because then you're going like, hey, I want to just run my machine. I want to. So where I used to work at Fresho, they have Make Monday. On a Monday, you want to run Make Monday, and you just want it to run. You don't want to go, oh, version of this is wrong. What does that mean? Oh, it means I have to run this other script to update this, right? The whole point of this is, can we have one point of entry to do everything, right? So this is the slight benefit of this over something else. The payoff is when you have, I've got like 15 repos in GitHub that I use. I work on 8 repos. And as soon as you don't have that, I feel the pain anytime I'm in a repo that doesn't have just one command to run. Yep.
Now we have even like a better setup. We have microapps and we make integrated with micro. And it does everything, like kinesis, simulation, whatever, fires events. It's so good.
Very good, very good. So just is an alternative to make. It's more modern. CD 08 switch to CD what? Hyphen back. You didn't see that. Right, make file. So switch to just. I'm going to have a default goal here to just switch to just. I'm going to have this amazing bit of make logic to say if Brew is installed and it's all good, Brew install it. If it's not there, tell people, well, maybe you've got Linux, so you could use just Linux, and maybe that will work. Otherwise, install the just command, run the just command, and then tell the user from there on to use the just command, right? So make basically says, homebrew ready to brew bundle, just is done. Escape characters, because when you call a shell inside a shell, things go crazy. And all of a sudden it says, right, you can do all of these things. So now rather than make, I can write just, and just gives me these available recipes, and I can just demo. And amazingly, it does some colors, and we go, great, okay, Michael, same thing as makefile. Let's have a look. Justfile. So I still have the user, I still have the current directory, I still have colors, I still have a default, but I don't need to have the whole usage thing, because the comment above each task is what's reported in the list. So slight minor little thing, but it's actually quite nice because you just write it in one place. You don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to understand why this thing does this, etc. Oh my God, look at that. Spaces, no tabs, right? Game changer. The other thing is no phony, right? So it doesn't care about the make thing. If you do want to create a file only if it doesn't exist, it actually becomes a little bit complicated because you've got to go back to bash scripting to say if the file doesn't exist, do this, otherwise it's there. It's better at calling itself. So when make calls make, things can go a bit weird with environments. When just calls just, it's pretty good. It's just kind of runs it. in this case, it's using announce RB, which are defined down the bottom. And the other thing is you can actually run snippets of shell script with your favorite language. So in this case, I've got Perl, Python, JavaScript, Ruby, you name it. And I can just prepend that thing. And it means that I've got a little bit more access to more things without too much more work. I've got hidden ones have underscores, prepended by underscores. But it's interesting how a little change like no tabs, a usage list makes it a little bit better, but it does come with a few other caveats. So we've seen, yeah, it works the same, a few nice things, but it's not everywhere. It doesn't work on GitHub by default. You need to add an extraction for just setup, right? So you need to have yet another setup step to say, hey, I want to do this, and I need just because all my build steps are based on just. The other thing, and this is more annoying, is GitHub by default uses Bash. I on Mac by default uses ZSH. Just works slightly different in both. You have to dictate which one you're using. It uses the default one by default, but I think it doesn't default well. So when you build it and you use it in the build, you have to add it to say run Bash by default, is what I've found, which is a little bit of a quirk and a little bit of an annoyance. What I was actually looking at using this for was next week I'm doing a conference workshop at NDC, and I wanted to use a very simple way of running a Rails project and running tests and running linting and a build on GitHub code spaces. It's not there by default. And to install it, you kind of need to install a few things, and it becomes a little bit of rigmarole. And if I want people to just get my repo, press a button, get GitHub code spaces running, make just works. Just means, oh yeah, it's not there. You have to run this other make command to install this, and maybe if cross your fingers, it will work. So yeah, this is the Bash thing I was saying about for making it work okay, both in GitHub Actions and locally, but it means it's not as good as just running ZSH. Mise. My understanding, that's the pronunciation, because it's from the mise en place, or everything has its place, or something like that. Mise is the new kid on the block. Somebody mentioned it to me, and then they said, hey, it's got task runners. So I said, perfect, we can throw it in here. Switch to Mise. Mise. And you look at this and go, what? What task runners? I don't see anything. Okay, because by default, it does a whole bunch of other things. It manages versions of everything. So I need to do Mise run, and pardon the colors, but not only gives me a list of things, it kind of gives me a little, what's it called? Menu. I can go up and down and decide what to run. And if I go demo, I don't even know what we get in demo. Oh, look at that. We get a beautiful Ruby AU thing in there. So let's have a look at Mise. Mise uses a TOML file. Again, similar thing. You have tasks, you have descriptions, you have the command that you run, and you have dependencies. So everything the other ones did. You don't have either tabs or spaces at the front. Amazing. You can do things like this, which is multi-line strings to go and execute your horrendous bash. But you can do a few other things like ls vi mise tasks. You can have a task inside of the Mise tasks folder. And if there you have a hash Mise without a space, without the space, it will use that as a description, right? So this is the multicolor thing we saw before. So if I go Mise run, it shows us rainbow, and it uses that description. Amazing. And then there is build. If I run the build, you'll notice it ran a whole bunch of things, and things were shown on the left-hand side as running in no particular order because it's multi-threaded. So when you're running something that has multiple tasks, you'll multi-thread them. Of course, I have a problem. Rubocop doesn't like the hash Mise. So obviously then I'd Mise lint, no, Mise, what have I got? Mise run lint, right? Lint dash A would auto fix, capital A. And what's actually interesting is this is not for free in Makefile or Justfile. This is for free in Mise. So in Makefile, you can't just add some extra parameters that are going to get passed to the script. In Justfile, you can't. In Mise, this was one of the kind of niceties as I came in. I was like, oh, I just added it and it added it to the Rubocop command. Amazing. It fixed that, but obviously now Mise run will mean Rainbow is missing its hash with no space Mise comment. Okay. It's multi-threaded. Tasks can be in a directory, whereas for the others, you have to kind of decide where you're going to put them and then you got to name them, etc. The other thing it did nice was chmod. So if you put a task in a task directory and it's not runnable, it will just say, hey, do you want me to make this runnable? And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's got the menus, passes the options through. It feels very polished. Like the documentation is pretty good. It's pretty solid. But because it's so solid, I don't know how to change the colors, right? So it uses some default colors which don't necessarily work with my whitish theme. I don't know how to do that. I mean, maybe there's some way. How the hell do you turn it off? So because I've installed it, the only way I could turn it off so it doesn't do that would be to uninstall it in Brew. And what happened initially is it looked around and said, hey, what do you want to do? I want to run some tasks. I said, no worries, here are the tasks. I go, right, run the build. And then it looks at my tool versions and then it looks at my global tool versions and says, oh, I haven't installed Zig, Rust, Python, Yarn, PostgreSQL. So all of a sudden, the first thing it does is tries to install the world, which is, again, interesting if you're not using ASDF and if you're going to go, right, I'm going to go Mise all the way. It will manage all my dependencies and it will be my task runner. It's probably great. But if you ever give this to somebody with a project that has that's using ASDF, it's going to really be a real pain because the first thing it's going to do is try and install every dependency they may or may not have. So that's the install the world, more information. Sorry?
Why does it miss that they're installed already?
Well, it hasn't installed them. So the first time you run Mise, it looks at my tool versions file, which I use for ASDF, and it says, you don't have Postgres installed. Let's start downloading Java. Let's start downloading everything. And Postgres, I need make level 0 to be passed in and whatever else. I can't just run it as a task runner. So it leaves that sweet spot of I can just run it behind and it becomes more of an integrated thing. Question?
Yeah, another question, the comment with the VS Code, I found the same problem with when I installed Ruby LSB in Mise. And because it has a priority kind of when it books up, for the Airbnb, whatever, like it was golden list for a VS Code, the Ruby LSB extension, it just kind of, oh, I've got SDF, let me find Ruby LSB, not installed, fix something. But it's installed in Mise.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the further you go down this path, the harder it is. Let's keep moving because I know I'm running out of time. XC, run your documentation. Well, why not mix documentation together? Let's have a look. So where are we here? Oh yeah, run the rainbow again. No, that's the whole thing. CD09, switch to this. Make, presumably. All right, I still use make to double check what the hell I'm doing. Cat the readme. So I have a readme here. And I have this special thing here, which is a H2 that says tasks. Anything below that is going to be treated as a task, which means XC, which is brew installed, is going to be able to run it. In this case, it could run a shell script. In this case, it could run a bit of Ruby, etc. You get the idea, Python, or I can run all the things. So XC, I again get a demo, a menu. I can up and down J and K. I don't think I can J and K in Justfile, which makes it a little bit annoying. I can't use Thingo. I can clean. I can do all the hellos, including even in Rust. Rust is it's not an XC thing. It's just a script thing. There's a Rust plugin that you can use. So via the README. So you can run cargo script if you want to run some Rust. immediately. It will compile it on the fly. If you have it uninstalled, it will install it. Oh, right. Actually, it's requires, right. So again, same thing, tasks, dependencies, run all your things. It's in your documentation. It's kind of cool. It's not very polished. So there's a few things that look kind of unfinished, not as neat as the other tools I've shown today. All right. Cool. So that's XC, not as polished, run your documentation, high level of abstraction, more at there. Other tools, as mentioned, Rakefile, NPM, you can just use NPM, right? It's got scripts in it as well. All do similar things. NPM, though, doesn't do dependencies, right? So you can't say this one thing does all the other things, I don't believe. Why script? Okay, DevOps. So this is the DevOps pyramid. Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was a kludge. People got a server, put some hard disks in, put it in a cupboard. At one point at Monash University, where I was, they found there was some freaking server pinging from somewhere. And in the meantime, somebody had plastered over the cupboard. It was actually in the wall. There was a cavity with a server running in it. That is where we came from in terms of servers. And that wasn't going to scale as we brought in the internet. So we went to some level of manual, repeatable, but manual playbooks, right? People wrote documents. When I was at Telstra and we shipped a new version of DNS server and some new disks in a HP thing, we'd write out like a 50-page manual of what was going to happen at 3 a.m. We'd run through it. Then we'd come in at 3 a.m. We'd execute page by page by page. It was literally a book, a playbook of how that migration was going to happen. All right. And then the DevOps revolution came where people started to script things, right? People said, hey, I want repeatable scripts. Scripts weren't enough. I want to do things like declarative things like Terraform, where you just say, I need a server that has these things, and the magic 5 servers pop up and they do all the things. They have all the interconnectivity. If one dies, they all do. And now there's like generators and things like Winglang that build on top of that even more. Now, I don't think we need to go that far, but right now, I think your dev setup is still probably in the kludge stage. Every dev probably joining your team has a completely different setup, has different tools, has out-of-date things. Is probably running the wrong version of Postgres, is doing manual fixes, and they don't even know. Like if you told them you got to have your machine re-imaged or get a new machine, they were like, no, I need 3 weeks. I need both machines. I need to copy things. It's a mess. So most of us are moving towards the manual README, right? You have a README, follow these steps, click, cut and paste, maybe in Confluence, etc. But we need to get beyond that, right? We need to start scripting things up. We need to start using things like bash and make in a repeatable way. You should be able to make clean your device and then make devenv your device and know that from scratch, brew is going to get installed. All the dependencies for that you need, ASDF is going to be installed, etc. And obviously we do have some things in the declarative space like brew and ASDF where you kind of more just declare what you need and that stuff gets loaded. So my hope post this is that we're all at least aiming for the scripts and a bit of declarative as we leave today to kind of go, right, this is where we want to kind of aim for. Because I'm an electronics guy, I like DIACs, which are dual pole diodes, and they got a kind of cool symbol. But it also stands for Developer Infrastructure as Code. Maybe that won't take off. So don't rely on cobbled together developer setup. Bash and Make are your friends. Post this experiment, I certainly feel that I would still use Make for majority of my stuff. If I was in a company that had decided to use something like Just and more people were using it, I would say definitely go for that. The company I'm in, actually, that's, I think, the direction we're going, because a new project now has started without my influence at all, and they've decided to pick up Just, which has been on a bunch of other projects. Certainly, ASDF, I think, is definitely use it. I think if your company's full of pretty switched on people, maybe Mise might be a thing. But if you're barely getting your developers onto ASDF, then maybe switching them onto the next greatest thing is probably not the thing to do. I know where I'm at. Most people still probably don't have ASDF, even though we've kind of tried to push it as the default. Most of our front enders still have NVM, this, that, and the other. The documentation's all way out of date. But certainly Mise is something that I would consider using more, as long as I know that I'm in control, and as long as the people who are using it are either all in on that environment. But certainly with ASDF, it kind of seems a bit quirky at times. New tools like XC, I mean, I was pretty impressed by it. I don't think it's production ready necessarily, but I certainly like the concept of doing that kind of thing. That's me. Thank you very much. Yes.
Windows devs? That was what I said.
Well, actually, the reason I had just Linux was we have a couple of Windows devs. They use WSL, Windows Subsystem Linux, that has make. So they can then use make to tell them to run this other command to go and install whatever. Look, I think that, so it depends, right? If you're using Linux within Windows, well then presumably you're halfway there. I don't know what the du jour package manager of Windows, of Linux is, let alone Windows. Certainly I have no idea in Windows. There is Brew. Brew works on Linux. Brew works on Linux. Not right, and then GitHub. I was ceramic dot files. I mean, this is my dot file, and in here I would have a dot bin with a brew file. And if I've got this, all I do is brew bundle. I don't know if people use brew bundle, but if you use brew bundle, this will basically brew install all of my developer setup. So I get a new machine, I run this will bring this in, I run make gives me a target, dev setup will get me my ASDF, my Git, my whatever other things, and then run all of these things and install everything from Olama to VS Code to Postgres to whatever I want. Certainly this and we've started using this in work so that you jump into a particular thing and we want to use 1Password as a command line tool. There'll be a brew file and there'll be a make target. You do make setup, and make setup will go, oh, there's a brew file, cool. I will go and do a brew install. Oh, you've already got it, no worries. Or you don't have it, add it.
Channeling my inner bag.
Hello, Zoom. Mise en place rhymes with glass. The closest English pronunciation to original French. Attention, I'm not asking this question right now, but we'll pose it in Slack later. I can rake. But I can hear somebody talking, unless I'm in another meeting. Cool. Any other questions? Oh, the repo, if you want to find this, I'll post it in Slack, but presumably failure driven. I'll have to find it. Make just dev runners, this one. So this is probably a pretty good, I enjoy doing this because now I have a pretty good list of all the possible things I've ever done in Make, Just, and now Mise. So certainly feel free to steal and borrow as you wish. All right, I'm going to hand it over. Yeah, thank you.